you're going to teach or share or express anything, it must be constantly embodied and coming back to the teaching of your own teaching. And that's where the humbling human experience always comes in, because if you're going to, I'm at least of the proponent that if you're going to be in integrity with your work or your service in the world, then you must be the ultimate student to it as well, because you will be constantly knocked on your ass if you think you know.
Welcome back to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm very excited to introduce to the podcast today Christopher August. He is a master of all things ceremonial within what we prefer to call the primordial state of awareness. The breath is the shiznit, and he is an alchemist and a practitioner teaching these wisdom techniques to people across the globe. And his business is Beats and Breath, which is so appropriate. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Well, it's an honor. It's a pleasure to be here. It's wonderful to be having this conversation and already kicking things off with just with a lot of aliveness. I feel the depth of what it is or whatever it is we may get into today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is so ancient and ceremonial for anyone on the path of Taoist rites. And it's something that is integrated. Without it, nothing is possible. And we all return to it. So that's really where the mother's realization comes in for any seeker to a knower. You are there, and just bubbling on that little potency as we breathe into and out of this union. Why don't you share a little bit with the audience about the origins of you and how you got here?
I think that can go many different ways. We speak from a cosmic perspective or a worldly perspective. On a worldly material level, I have had interesting path, as we all have, in my own hero's journey. I was once the sort of epitome of the corporate world and living within that realm, and chasing my TAO, as we all do, paycheck to paycheck, and ultimately finding some level of success and having a master's degree in all the titles and roles that we play, to ultimately giving that up and giving that away and leaving all of that behind, and leaving the small town of Buffalo, New York, to travel halfway across the world to Tanzania, Africa, where I lived and served in a small village for 2 years of my life as a Peace Corps volunteer, which was sort of the call to adventure, as we like to say, in step one of the hero's journey. And so I took the call, and I lived very primordially off the land for 2 years of my life, which really taught me a lot. Being woven into community, being woven into a very deep sense of connection to nature, which really formulated this deep level of why I exist. And now resurfacing and coming back to that why 12 years later, and reorientating myself to, why am I here? Why am I doing what I do? Why am I desiring to serve in this way, or whatever it might be? And, since that moment of leaving that experience to where I am now, many things have happened, including near-death experiences, training in different various realms. But all in all, coming back to the core principle that I myself, I know nothing. I'm still a student of the eternal universe, as my son likes to call it, and always constantly humbled by life. And as we have this conversation, I very much find myself in this liminal void space and moving into this next realm of service, and not knowing exactly what that looks like, but just know that the breath is my anchor, and I'm here just to show up and flow in whatever way spirit wants.
Amen to that, brother. Absolutely. I love it. It's an actualizer for an alchemical path. And it's the fundamental super juice that we use to access the tapestry of the mother and to alter it at will. And once you detach and attach, then you have Dominion Imperium Maestro. over this substance, because the ultimate alchemical process for a Taoist is basically actualizing and emanating what we call Nigong, which is the internal power, that through that path of Nidan, which is the internal alchemy, you are realized. And so what better purpose than, not a little plug, but just a little plug to my latest book, Immortality Crystallized Within the Material. It's bringing that eternal immortal self into this present moment and being able to alter it at will. And that's part of the mastery of magic, manifestation, healing, is realizing that the diluted state is the spiritual bypass by going to, I am Brahman, I am the cosmic consciousness, I am all things. Show me. That's where I get down with the get down. I want to see it. And, for me, I'm a Pepsi challenge guy from the 80s. So I'll take the Pepsi taste test with anybody. And it really comes down to it, right? We are unionized. We are solidified right now. And every breath, every action that we're taking in this collective, we are both feeling it. It's an iteration of what we've already known and have for many lifetimes. And it's coming back to this point. And it's so potent. The blossoming of that, just being present right now, is the beauty. And, this is where the rubber meets the road, where I really don't think people understand what the magnificent, majestic potency of the magic that you share with people. That's the answer. As we refer to the mother, as she inhales, being the void, the abyss, life is created. That seed of yang is entered into the womb of eternity, and then we create life. Sudden, you intercept something, and the divergence turns back to a concept that is blossomed into a knowing from the mind to the body. And you can't enter that any other way. And it doesn't take incessant chatter of the mind, of the finite mind, which constantly goes on and on and on about theories and purpose and why. That's a big one. That's a catalyst that really will harpoon you into a rat in a wheel scenario that you'll never leave. It's like, I want to get off this treadmill. No, we're not ready yet. Ask it again. And a point of no return, bankruptcy, right? The finite mind is bankrupt. You're going to, the old definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, there's something that's very present right now in my current reality and what I'm experiencing, and that is the recalibration to the deeper levels of the feminine and allowing that feminine heart to be fully raw, seen, vulnerable, authentic in all the ways, and allowing the chaotic and the wildness of the feminine to take me through its rivers, through her rivers, into wherever life wants to flow, and allowing sort of that masculine doing productive, hyperactive state to just be set aside and allow that to speak and share and whatever it wants to do and scream and fight, but allow the aspect and the essence of the feminine to flow through my life and allow myself to be of service to a greater spirit, to the great spirit, in whatever way that is meant to be, and letting go of attachment to the known, which is the journey. And I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah, I feel like lately a lot of people have got the handbook. I've had a few reps in this so-called game. Shout out to a dear friend of mine, Tom Campbell, who refers to it as the virtual reality. This virtual reality is really what he wants to refer to as a simulation. Sure, you can call it anything you want. Tomato, a pig painted a different color is still a pig. And so when people realize that they have to feel into the body before they can go on their journey of like ascension to another state, I think it's very poetic that you're bringing this potency to a point by referring to that inverted state that we like to call yin, which is the absorption of all colors. And of course, yang is the emission of all colors. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find that center point. And once you go from duality to non-dualist, non-centrist, that comes from entering that center point and realizing you're all things. That breath is everything. Contracting and expanding is all you need for the deciphering of reality. And that's why your teaching, your wisdom teaching is absolutely the only thing people need to be aware of. And we understand this from an alchemical process, because Qigong, as contemporary as it may sound within the word itself, is just moving energy with your breath. Nigong is moving energy with your mind. Once those two Shazam together, you are the most powerful alchemist, and you will create from that moment. It won't be a consumption of the fringe benefits of your personality, which is all external. So everything's external from a Taoist perspective. Your eternal, immortal self that is forever is a stream of magnetism that never leaves. It cannot be created or destroyed. Once you access that, now you get down with the get down. Now that animation, from a Taoist perspective, animation of the mother animates the consciousness animates the spirit animates the energy animates the body, which is a lower expression or distortion of energy. And once that's met, you feel that rumbling right there. You feel it through your body, because you know it to be true. It has no more of the incessant, if you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. That's get down with it. It's all evidence-based there. And experiential moments are all we have. All this other stuff means nothing, because if you want to enter the emptiness or the void, the mother, many will call it God, universe, Buddha, Tao. I'm not in any way someone who wants to be an arbiter of anyone's reality. It's how they choose to circumvent their own nonsense by wasting the time in the spiritual bullshit, which comes from the energy and the body. And so no one ever gets to actualize their spirit, which intention and attention met together with that Shazam moment is evidence of the spirit in the now moment. And you capture that with all your ancient teachings.
Yeah, beautifully said, eloquently said, and very much received. And I guess if we were to lead with the conversation around breath and what breath means, what is breath? It is that ancient, timeless spirit that is weaving across all dimensions and in this sort of cosmic play that we all have, animating life and allowing life to be shared, to be expressed, to be felt in all of the ways. Without breath, none of it would exist. And so it is why I've sort of made it the cornerstone of my exploration, and also the foundation of everything that I do starts and ends with the breath, as all life does. So, and constantly, of course, if we are going to teach or share or express anything, it must be constantly embodied and coming back to the teaching of your own teaching. And that's where the humbling human experience always comes in, because if you're going to, I'm at least of the proponent that if you're going to be in integrity with your work or your service in the world, then you must be the ultimate student to it as well, because you will be constantly knocked on your ass if you think you know. And so it's just coming back to that center point, as you mentioned, to the hara, to that place of knowing and that true knowing, and allowing everything else to speak and be shared from there.
As you feel into it, it's beautiful. It's like the soaring of the eagle that reaches beyond the stars as the moon shines down upon the mind and breaks open the heart, and let those tears of sorrow and pain embody the river of eternity. Hey, to that, brother. And you see, poetry is like our Jedi lightsaber, as we use it, as we hand down, we refer to it as the rhapsody and the remedy. That chill and challenge you got, brother, amen to that, because your body's oscillating. Oracally, I see it, and if I choose to experience it, I do. I apologize if you consider that aura dipping. Most of my students refer to it as that. But you're aura dipping. Listen, we're as one. We're in union right now. It's impossible not to experience this now moment. So forgive me, but you don't have those type of boundaries, which is good. Most people tend to get really upset.
I feel I open my energy to those that are also in that receptive and allowance mode, and vice versa. So it is not an infringement on my free will here. I feel very, grateful to receive that, and also to be here in this flow with you, and to be also receiving your wisdom and your sharings. So
Yeah, it's beauty right there. It's absolute beauty. And this comes from very much your own mastery. We refer to it as the method to the madness. Your cultivation has brought you to this, what we refine as a sensory perception, which is an unlimited palette. And you use the brush of attention, intention, and you paint from that. You paint whatever you choose to. And that the breath is the harnessing of that. So as we realize everything is a symbiotic experience feeding from one, realizing that the delusion of yin and yang is that transfer, that inverted or extroverted effect. And, many people fall on the sword of that through their journey, taking on too much of one and not another of the other, as you are subject to this dualistic dance until otherwise noted. And that evidence shows in your experience, that evidence shows in your ability to harness what we call the substance, the Fa Jun. And then you play with it like Spider-Man. And all of a sudden you activate this 50 trillion cells, right? And so now that energy potential is at will, 0.07 millivolts of energy potential. And so within a Taoist metaphysical path, you are a constant, you are the pulse, whereas everything is a wave. And so energy is misspent by saying that it's a permanence. It's an impermanence. It will have a crescendo like a firework, and then it will fall back into itself and deconstruct. That is the beauty of the body. Thoughts, feelings, and emotions is it. And really, when you start to harness that potency as you do, because you're super primed and you're ready to go, and that's your mastery of your energy potential, is recognizing that and realizing that that's come from your own method to your madness. And cultivation, it's like second to none. You can't misplace it. You can't distort it. Your resonance precedes you, because literally, calling out to Gary, he loves to refer it to, I use the energy potential, which is met with your attention and intention. Your spirit, we refer to as the Shen, enters into this low energy state. And basically from creation to completion, which is what we call the great bellows, everything is a creation and completion and rebirth, a trilogy that takes place every second of every minute. And you have the ability to enter that. And as you do that, the currency that is evident in this material state is energy potential. It's vibratory, frequential. It has resonance. And your resonance is preceding you right now, not your reputation. That means nothing. Your resonance is all you have. And that's where people clamor to charismatic influence. They clamor to charm. They clamor to personality that recognizes their own reflection of the universe as whole. And then you harness that power. And what we're exhibiting right now, we're experiencing this. So I'm very grateful.
As am I. And I believe that, as you mentioned and as you shared, the resonance factor, which is often underlooked, undervalued in society. Whereas, as you mentioned, more so the recognition, the personality, that being put forth, and not understanding the impact of our energy and of our resonance, of our frequency that we're emitting into the field through our thoughts, through our beliefs, through our stories, through our identities, through all the things that we claim to be as real. And sitting back into the seat of cosmic awareness and being that observer and resonating from that place is much different than resonating from the human place. And that is, for me, the alchemy, and something I'm constantly dancing with, even so in this moment, and allowing myself to sit back and be that creator and that observer, to know that from that place, and anchored in the deepest intention of love, of peace, of unity, of abundance, of free will, of freedom, of all of these beautiful resonance fields that we can then project out into the collective field and allow that to dance in whatever way it does, and then become the magnet to receive whatever it is we're putting out there, and being in that conscious seat of creation, which is something that I believe is requires all of us to dive deep into the mastery of that. And when we do that, we create parallel worlds, new paradigms that all then can be ideally resonating and vibrating at a higher frequency band.
Yes, 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 and yes. May I have some more, please? One of my favorite movies, Oliver Twist. You want more, boy? Yes, sir. May I have another? That's really what you continue to dance between consumption and creation, and
Mm,
you are detoured through a thought, feeling, and emotion. You meet that as your eternal immortal self. The second you enter the deconstruction of that being the end point of the feeling that rewinds back to the emotion and then ultimately the thought, and everything is so at high speed that people do not take the time to slow down and recognize how things are generated within this material state. And so being eternal immortal forever, the second you meet the threshold of feeling, you fall back into the void.
mm,
Everything else is an incessant drill, another distortion, another unnecessary moment to experience emotion and thought. Because the mastery is really recognizing that that does not create or destroy the resonance. The resonance is whole. You are whole. You are eternal, immortal, forever. And so when people feel into it and then attempt to make sense of it, is where the distortion comes in. And that in of itself is also a lot of fun with the spiritual baby shit. Yet we must also recognize that when you want to truly, as a master of the universe, enter into that status now, it has no definition, it has no identity, it has nothing. And that's a part that we as human beings love to distort. I like to have my cake and eat it, and that's part of Qigong, where you
mm,
can actually be an emanation of your personality. I would never, ever recommend someone erasing it. Virtue signaling is fun. And that, you know, when you get into it, the need to actually sink your teeth into that experience is the very purpose of you being here.
mm,
Now it's the, you know, the suffering that really looks like happiness as you enter into the deep state of what would seem as an emanation, a color of the rainbow. Depression is the entry of happiness through the opening of the mind and dissolving back into the mother. And that just comes from truly feeling you have everything you need, brother. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm very, very much in the presence of an eternal, immortal emanation that perhaps maybe you might have taken a few sidetracks, but if you think that you're on the if you think you know you're on the precipice, I'll give you a heads up. You are. Now, personally, I've been doing this stuff consciously for about 36 years, so it tends to sit into me, having taught many people on how to remember who they are. And when that happens, it's like a pop off that you'll never ever forget and never remember.
Mm.
Yeah.
Grateful to be in your presence, grateful to be in your company and to share this moment, this now moment with you, and receiving all of your codes, all of your wisdom, all of your generous energy that you're putting out there. And yeah, there's so much percolating right now within my own self, and feeling the energy moving as we're exchanging these words and exchanging this energy and devotion to whatever is here, which is really all and one. And yeah, just appreciation.
Yeah, you're right at the center point. And once you enter it, it'll dissolve. The non-centrist state is really something that most people talk about. And quite frankly, most people that I interview are full of shit. But that's all right. The bullshit meter comes up. You can't replicate this moment. Any of my students, disciples, 126ers, or any of the subscribers to this channel witness this. This is an exercise in mastery. That's why I have these conversations, so people can embody and feel into this very moment. And yes, I might have unraveled a few things that sounds like a cult. It's not. The 126 is an app that I have. The disciples are disciples, students are students, and subscribers are subscribers. But they all have their own entry level. As my dear friend Tom Campbell would say, low or high entropy, however that might be. You know, how distorted do you want it to be? Do you need to literally walk in front of traffic on the 405 in California? Or maybe you just need to run yourself off a cliff. You will find that you are not of this body. And when you recognize that, you realize that nothing can harm you. And then we get down when we get down.
The core mantra that's been running in my just awareness over these past few days has been need nothing. You don't need anything. You have everything. There's nothing you need. There's nothing you need in this moment. There's nothing you ever need. You have it all. It is you. It is all within. And allowing life to move through me from that perspective of needing nothing feels much lighter, much more alive, being in that empty space rather than needing or whatever this material object is, or trying to be this person or show up this way. It's like we don't need any of that. It's losing that part of self and just coming back to that emptiness, to that void, to that center, and emanating from there.
You're at a crossroads. We like to refer to it as the selfishness to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And that sacrifice is this very idea that you are empty or full. You're all things and nothing at the same time. That's the paradox. And there we go. And all my students will be like, but Jifu, my head just exploded. Yes. It cannot be met with words. If you are in possession, my dear friend, of that potency. And it does not, your inquiry is the last death nail breath of whatever is left as it goes over the cliff, grabbing on for anything for dear life. It's happening now. And you are truly experiencing that. And so the words will diminish. They will fall back into themselves. And so being on that state is not to be in lack of or to be more than what you need. It just comes from truly your mastery. And so within yin and yang, we refer to this as the entry level to the mother, the primordial mother, where you hold the breath. We refer to this as accumulating the riches, absorbing the riches, and this creates what is an ether or potential evidence of flow. We refer to it as the mother, the substance, the fajin. When you hold your breath, you create the diamond of perfection, and we absorb from that. And that hardness then returns back to supple and is forever a part of who you are. And so the more you accumulate, as you understand how powerful the breath is, this symbiosis, the dance between yin and yang, and then the ultimate unification that returns to nothing is the mother. We then emanate the Wu Ji, which is the primordial mother. And from that, we access what we call Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort. Everything is serendipitous. Everything is synchronistic. It's good to be you. And that's kind of like part of like where people get confused with Eastern philosophy and they throw Taoism kind of in there. And yes, we have a seed of that. We're very curious and we use that ancient sort of poetic justice to serve that to the world. Yet truly, when you get deeper into it, it comes from understanding that when we breathe in and we breathe out, this is the universe being created and deconstructed at the same time. And when you pause, everything you need is right there. And what happens is the spirit pops out. The spirit is now present. It's like, hello, here I am. And then you have the ability to now hold that resonance. And, you know, we move away from the respiration of the flesh and we breathe into consciousness. Furthermore, we breathe into the mother that requires no physical activity. And so some of the most torturous experiences any of my students have is when I apply physical movement and then breath. And so when you are doing something where you're cultivating the sacred infinite flower within the alchemy that I teach people, you move around the flower in a circular fashion, yet you are holding and pausing that breath, which is activating the mother. And, you know, for me, 17, 18 minutes is my best of best. But most of the students, when they're holding, they break. And you have to do at least 81 cycles to actualize a certain effect from yin to yang. And so you do 81 clockwise and 81 counterclockwise, accumulating the riches. Of course, people shit the bed after about eight seconds. They can't do 8 cycles because it's effectively you're multitasking. You are in this present moment, yet you are emanating a force that is beyond the body, and your mind still believes you are the body, which is part of the initiation and the rite of passage to dissolve that. And that's when things get real interesting. You want some mystical, magical, paranormal shit. That's when it comes. Just say it.
Well, I love to listen to and receive your mastery in this realm as well, and the different layers and subtleties of working with the power of breath, of sharing this, alchemical, timeless technology that is here to support us in the actualization of ourself, which has always been my interest of exploration with the breath, is exploring the metaphysical nature of it. The science is the science, and I take it or leave it. For me, it absolutely bores me. But conversation on this realm is what excites me, and always, again, being the student to learn more, and being always available to receive the wisdom of how breath wants to share through anybody, including yourself. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, brother. I mean, it goes sort of so far when you want to play with the baby shit of neuroplasticity and parasympathetic and sympathetic and pausing and holding and manipulating the diaphragm, and furthermore the respiration, and what that really evokes is material.
Yep.
This is not what we're talking about. And
Yep.
so many people get distorted with the same old, and they're literally talking heads, and they repeat the same thing over and over again. And you kind of go, oh, it's just not happening. We're not meeting this moment. And that's where the resonance comes in, and it precedes anything. Book learned talkie really doesn't go so far with me. I want to see it, and really when you start to get to certain things where the body is so easily manipulated because it's such a low distorted state. So that's where, being able to derive and create, what most of my parapsychologist friends would be referring to supernatural activity. The basic stuff that I teach as sensory perception is all the classics, clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling, blah, 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 physical healing, manifestation. Yay. These are very basement level entry stuff. And you need to have a foundation of that before you continue down your path on the yellow brick road to the Wizard of Oz. You have to find that. You have to find that these are nodes of acceptance within that rite of passage, and you will absorb them. You will have them return to you, and you will be whole. And the most concerning or problematic issue is when I teach people this stuff, they get sort of stuck in that cycle. It's a wash and repeat and rinse cycle, where they enter into something as infantile as physical healing. They get excited. It's like, I am the next coming of Jesus. I am Moses. Listen, easy for a minute. Easy. You're now playing with the energy to truly remember your eternal. There we go. I gave you an example of shape shifting. You disappear and then reappear. Right?
It was all perfect. It was what it needed to be. As you were saying, the physical healing and the sort of bottom level sort of teachings or sharing.
Well, they're entry level things. They're important that you go through that path of initiate.
Yeah, I agree.
And so when people bypass all these fundamentals is where I get 90, probably 95% of my students from, because they what I like to call spiritually bypass it. And I'm Brahman, I'm universe, I'm consciousness. Yet what happens is they run to that point, they tap it. Oh, I fully understand the nature of reality. And then from that, they end up just being a transmitter of potential access to that higher awareness. Furthermore, the state of knowing is when to know thyself is to know nothing. And that refers to the mother, or some would call it God, universe, Jesus, Buddha. But that will be a resonance that is undeniable. So that means when you detach and you reattach, all things are met with your attention, intention. You're no longer asking. You are the universe. You are the mother, which means that with thought instantly alters the material in this state, creating manifestation, magic, healing, affecting place, person, or thing, energy, spirit, or God, matter, chi, or spirit. Amen to that. But this is an alchemical rite of passage, and the initiator of that is you as an initiate of the path. And it's a fundamental processes. It's not something that's flippant where people get the bite of the spiritual dragon where, oh my goodness, I woke up, I can see grandma, I hear voices, I can read energy, I can heal people. Everyone gets excited, but then that's the inverted effect of this. So you take in way too much in, and it starts to show itself through the body. So you're not balancing that. Most people within my space, if they're healers or they're self-proclaimed healers, they're dead between 40 and 60. They're done. They're burnt out because they don't understand how to master the mother, return to your true self, and then pay homage and honor the flesh as this immortal jump-off point. This avatar must be met with a remembrance that nourishes the body, so you're not handing it off. Every time you put your attention intention together, the spirit is activated. Yet most people get distorted. They're not balancing the two within this dance, and they draw the energy in, and it will show with physical distortion and finally decay and mortality sets in. And this happens for all healers. I mean, some of the biggest ones that I've ever come across or taught always end on the same thing. You live by the sword, die by the sword. For Taoists, you come in with what we call the Jing. The Jing is your constitution. Your constitution normally is never at 100%. I use the analogy, the battery pack. You come in about 80. You then actualize the energy, which is the chi, and then you nurture the flesh, bring it up to 100%, from 100 to 1,000, from 1,000 to 9,000. And we use these points of creation to completion. And numerology is another iteration of yourself. Languages, chemical processes, all these things are tools to recognize your eternal immortal self. So 1 to 9, we always stay in the cycle of 9 because that's the highest point, the completed point, and then the rebirth once again. And so you understand sacred geometry, numerology, things of that nature, astrology. These are all part and parcel, another way to actualize things. But once you actualize the body as immortal, and as I refer to it, immortality crystallized within the material, then we get down with the get down, because now you're no longer ever feeding from what is so sacred. This is how you're able to experience, furthermore, your eternal immortal self by having the flesh active and operational right up to your next transition. And that can be cycles of lifetimes. For a Taoist, we hit a 63-year cycle. Once you hit 63, you'll enter another 63. And then from that, you'll enter another 63. And we have many very clear paths through the Taoist canons going back thousands of years. And my own teachers, the most highest level of ascension or actualization is the dialogue to the monologue. You want to have clear dialogue with other facets of the diamonds, which would refer to your teachers. I have over 171 teachers. I access information that is the monologue of the mother. These are all just different branches. Imagine it's a tree. They're all different branches that are growing out, coming back to the same rooted point. And this is where you access information, and all of a sudden you look really smart. Like Lao Tzu makes me look kind of half smart, half sort of intelligent. I know most people gravitate to me because I look like Brad Pitt, but all that aside, the reality is I'm as dumb as rocks. The present moment is how I access my remembrance through the true source of information. And that will always return you to your eternal immortal self, where there's no contemplation, there's no dialogue. When you meet this and you feel it and you know it to be true, and you're actualizing these things constantly over and over again, it's a repeatable thing. It's not a one-time banger where, oh my goodness, I was just so good. And that's where I refer back to what happens. People bypass the body. See, as a young boy, for most of my teenage years, I was a powerlifter and bodybuilder. And so I fed into that. And, by the time I met meditation at the age of 17, 18, I was achieving record lifts, 800-pound deadlifts, squats, stupid stuff. Anyone that understands anything about exercise or physiology will know that that's, up there at the top echelon. And most of those people that were meeting those type of levels back in those days were using external stressors, other PEDs and things of that nature to achieve that goal. I was using my fucking mind. And that's where people get really crazy, because I was deflated when I finally came to the realization Schwarzenegger was running the juice. It was like, it took me a minute. I was like, I just read the Education of a Bodybuilder when I was 10 years old, and I assumed that was the Bible. And I applied that, and I had no guardrails or or training wheels to tell me otherwise. And that was met with my ability to access that. And when you have the effect of the tactile, the effect of flesh against steel, you now start to own that. And realize you need to activate the body. And that's where I never had an issue entering the lower energy centers. We refer to them as dantians. In most systems, they would refer to them as chakras or things of that nature. So the dantians are the energy elixir field. And that's where you really start to shine, because the sun is the upper dantian, the earth is the middle dantian, and the lower dantian is the moon. And when you merge the alchemical response of the earth and the moon, oh boy, all bets are off, because the primordial mother will show herself. And then you can do things that would be supernatural. And that's what you're on the precipice of, my friend. I know you are.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm very intrigued by the just the dialogue and what we're sharing here is very much resonant because of just these deeper levels of exploration. And this is why I'm very much in love with allowing myself to play in reality in this way, and knowing there's so many different intricacies and subtleties to this game. And like I said from the beginning, being humbled to it, I'm very much really receiving a lot of what you're sharing. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm still very entry level, but I know I'm on the precipice of breaking through to another echelon in a way that is beyond anything I've yet to experience in my 38 earthly years on this planet. And it's exciting to me. And as you are sharing the idea of the uniting of the sun and the moon and the earth, I was brought back to a practice that I received and have loosely been dipping in and out of Pangu Shangung, and using the sun and the moon and bringing these energies together in these cycles to create an alchemical process internally. In fact, I just picked it up again this week, just sort of intuitively wanted to come back to that. And now for some reason, just diving into that, because you've reminded me of sharing what you just did there. So,
well, yeah, I mean, these are the gatekeepers. So the upper dantian holds the light, the middle dantian holds the information, the lower dantian holds the energy. And when realized, then you reveal the mother, the eternal immortal self. And so, through the alchemical process, everything, you name it, you can do it. I used to love the old drop a wet rag down and conjure up through the spleen and the liver. You activate this potency. We refer to it as thunder magic, and you can harness the energy potential in the body and shock people at will. This is a fun actualization. It's very elementary, and it's good to start with, yet eventually it has a diminished return, because there's only so much. You will reset someone's nervous system very quickly doing these types of things, embodying anesthesia, running skewers through the flesh, ripping it out, having no entry and exit point. These are the types of things that are what some people would call an illusion. Well, they're not. They're not a delusion. They're an actual event that's taking place that is altering material. And so, I kind of went head ass backwards when I first started this stuff, because it met me with, when I was a teenager, voice in my head said, you need to now move past this lifting and you must find meditation. Back in those days, that was Hare Krishna's hairy armpits and a bunch of hippies eating alfalfa sprouts. That's it. So I had no process to try and understand what that really meant. It was pretty delusional. And so when I came across meditation, I stopped sound for 20 minutes. And I was like, this is the superpower shit that I've been looking for. And I've been doing it since I was a kid. And then from there, it went straight into distant healing, psychic abilities, witnessing physical healing. I watched gangrenous flesh go back to pink in color in 40 minutes. And these are the types of events I'm used to. Bones fuse, gashes disappear, the kind of shit that you think is impossible. It's absolutely possible. You have to be able to hold a resonance. And that's really where you and I are meeting, beyond the stories and the accolades, the humility, the self-discovery is where this shit really meets, because the resonance is there. I could say anything and you go, that guy is for fucking real. He's not bullshitting me. I'm right here. That charge that emanates like a firecracker through your body right now tells me you're right where you need to be.
Mm.
And so all of this stuff is part of a mastery. You know, I unfortunately spent, 30 years in what someone would call the shadows. I reluctantly entered social media, interweb stuff, only due to the directive of my teachers. And so my teachers, Supreme Purity, Jade Purity, Highest Purity, are the creators of the cosmos within the Taoist path of self-realization. They're emanations of a facet of the diamond of perfection, which we refer to as the eternal immortal self, the mother. So there's always facets, like your information now needs to be refined, and the stream of it can be as lucid and as now as not just hearing a few echoed mantras, but a dialogue that is a constant, that can be accessed at will, and there's no thinking. The wisdom is instant, and you're
Yes.
getting a taste of that spiritual dragon that's constantly happening. Now we need to pull off the Band-Aid and have you actualize it as whole.
Mm.
And that's part of the nodes of the rite of passage. You alchemize everything. And that's the part where people get missing, and they bypass the body, and they're like, oh, so I have tons of friends that are monastic Buddhists, and their end goal is to find the misery in everything, the dukkha, and then just sit there like sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the clouds go by. Okay, bro, that's not how I play. And they're like, saying, I don't get the energy thing. I don't like it. It's like, I love it. It's very important, because they dismiss the avatar, the physical body. It's just a throwaway.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I have much to absorb and integrate and receive from your wisdom that you've shared. And it's interesting how spirit weaves together to bring people together, because of course, naturally going and sharing space with someone, especially in this capacity of, an interview, it's beyond that. It's more of a energetic exchange and a sacred dialogue that, again, being open to receive whatever it is at any given point. It's like, yeah, okay, this is what when you came across my inbox, is like, yeah, let's do this, and wherever this leads, here we are. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here and to receive all of this, because what interests me the most right now, based on this conversation, based on this dialogue, is the deeper levels of curiosity that are pulling me towards the opening and the grand level of remembrance that my soul has been craving for so long, and dropping all of the extracurricular things and coming back to what truly matters most. And yeah, and embracing the unknown and the not knowing and how that will unfold, but allowing myself to open to be a channel and a conduit for love and for the great spirit to speak through me and to share through me in the most direct way that opens the hearts of the people that come into my sphere and vibrational field.
Yes. Yes and yes. And you really bring up a good point, because once you cultivate and emanate the limited construct of the finite mind, identity, personality, things of that nature, when you realize they're like an icon on your computer screen, and you can move it at will. And that's where I referred to earlier. I like driving my side by side in the desert 100 miles an hour. I eat chocolate bonbons. Unfortunately, I still subscribe to Netflix. These are things that are part of the personality that should never be erased. It's part of the experience. yet
Agreed.
being able to slip in and move between. That's what Qigong is. It's an ability to access anything at will, holding that resonance. The resonance will melt like a butter on a frying pan, instantaneous, because the resonance holds court to everything. It returns everything to whole. And so part of magic for Taoist alchemy is to return things to whole. It's not as manipulative as most systems of magic are, where I have a desire, I must create that desire through certain alterations. What we do is we return everything to whole, and you create harmony. Feng Shui is a very basic understanding, but we refer to it as body dowsing, which is transformative skills that go deep into, accessing instantaneously, power centers, vortices, nodes within the system that you refer to as the material. And now the grids are opening up, and you can very much experience them and imbue what is necessary through your resonance to return it to whole. That's the essence of magic. And when you return things to whole, everyone is a beneficiary of this particular experience. So that means that they all are receiving. And so in some cases, that resonance will evoke all the external stressors of the personality, which will present themselves as, you are the reason why I feel like shit. You are the reason why I am in so much turmoil, because you hold court without opening or closing the mouth, which is a trap. The resonance is whole. And so you'll experience this as exhibits of a dualistic perspective, because we are dancing that symbiosis between yin and yang constantly. And until otherwise noted, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. And so most people will return to that and go, oh, well, the only thing that happened to my life was this person entered it, and now everything's shit, only because they've refused to allow themselves to feel into and through the experience of that distortion. They want to hold on to it. They want to sweep it under a rug. They want to make it the very catalyst to their existence, and then be the whining Karen on a $2.4 million views on some YouTube channel, because they refuse to identify and be accountable for their own self, that then returns them to wholeness. And so it's like, that's that power. You experience it whenever you do a workshop, or you're working with someone one-on-one, or furthermore, if you go to an event where there's someone who's an anticipated moment of energy, a Dalai Lama or a Sun Guru or some energetic master that you believe has a little bit more insight, that wisdom will precede itself and bleed into the energy, and you will know that you have arrived. And that's like where all of this goes. I mean, you have arrived, my friend. Not that anyone needs to tell you that. You already know that. But humility personified is this very moment.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you deeply. Yeah, received.
And it's basically the conditioning. And you find that mostly within this need to punish thyself, as if there's some moral compass, which is another distortion of the realm of man. What happens is you move past that distortion, and selflessness and servitude is the default. That's where the eternal immortal self becomes recognized and realized and actualized in this moment. And so there's no need to virtual signal and, I am walking the path. I read the scripture, the Dharma, the Bible, the Tao Te Ching. This is all great remembrance, yet to return requires no participation of yours. None whatsoever. It's yeah. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Mm. Well, taking a deep breath into all of that and letting that go.
Mm. You see,
Mhm.
it's like the activation when you breathe in, you accumulate, you hold. When you breathe out from the alchemical process I share, you saturate. You, in so many words, there's always an entry and exit point. You inseminate the environment around you. And people are like, oh, that's kind of a little intense. You don't have to be that descriptive. That's exactly what you're doing. And then you have dominion over that. And so
Mm.
people do not, they don't understand how potent that is. And like the amber effect that I refer to is when you access that, you harness that, you are just, you are able to play at will with that breath. And so you enter the tapestry and now you move it. So something as futile as, take a candle, a lit candle, and put your attention, intention to the flame and breathe primordially, and that flame will move to your attention and intention at will. And this is a nice way to get into an entry level of awareness that that substance is thick and there's no subtlety, my friend. When people use subtlety, they're humble at best. And I like that you're humble. It's unnecessary. You know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. And your pure power and knowing who you are is the very thing that's holding you back from remembering. It's like you're right there. And you're like, oh well, I've been told I have to suck it up and be a little. It's not about me. It's never about me. Enough of that. People refer to it as sort of like a conceited, narcissistic avatar. That's nonsense. It's because the other person is meeting their maker through that resonance that they find themselves deficient, and they want to speak about you, which is really a reflection of all the shit they don't have or want or need that they are desiring, and they want to use it as a way to project upon. And what happens is it just reflects back because your magnetism will not repel. It'll only repel things that are of a lower frequential state. And that's where the shit comes right back at people, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. So I guess what I'm picking up and what I'm receiving is, and very much as you mentioned, the precipice, it is the acknowledgement and the knowingness of that power and inviting that power in fully without apology, without anything, with just pure boldness of spirit.
Well, you're eternal, immortal. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Have you ever seen the movie Highlander?
I haven't seen Highlander, no.
Here we are, born to be king. We are the masters of the universe. And they refer to the quickening, which is potent. That charge you got right now, bang! That quickening is the now moment. And guess what? Humility reserves that second place of the beta bitch, furthermore, the NPC that really comes out. And the truth is, this is your experience. And as they like to say, it's your party. You can cry if you want to, or own thyself as whole.
Mm.
So everything then instantly creates that rippling effect of wholeness, that your spirit is actualized in your attention, intention. Everywhere you look, as we refer to within Taoism, is perfection. Nothing is deficient. Nothing is excess. Everything is perfection. And you own that magnetism. And
Mm.
then your desire or curiosity, as you meant further through your own admission, with the need for divine feminine, is part of your remembering, because that's where you get the secret source. That's how I activated myself, even though I look to be an avatar of, an excess of yang or high levels of alpha or testosterone. I'm actually the complete opposite. And that is owning that. Yet that's the delusion, the sidestep. And people are always like left dumbfounded by the fact that there's more. And truly, when you access servitude and selflessness, what's the superpower? From your Sherlock to your Watson, through the human condition, the finite mind is the labyrinth, and you exit that as human being, as a human beingness, as wholeness. And that superpower is the sentience, the empathy. That's where we get down with the get down.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I'll have whatever she's having. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, you sit with it. I mean, there's always the distortion. There's always that delusion and need of time and space to conduct what you believe is an important point, but that will always dissolve. That's why I refer to myself as a master void of time and space. And it does not require any participation of my own. The resonance is all you need, and that's your return. And it cannot be created through words, only through the feeling. And you're already there, my friend. It's like that, just that last death knell, the sacrifice that must be met is that need to deconstruct introspective, analytical, incessant nonsense is the only thing stopping you. You're already emanating the resonance. It's here. You're just fucking with yourself. It's like, oh, I just want to play over here. I'll just pretend to pretend. Oh no, it's happened. It's already happened. As the old expression would say, you have arrived. Now allow yourself. And that doesn't require anything from the finite mind or constructs of any kind or definition or ascension of any way, shape, or form. It all falls back to the feeling and then falls back into the void, into the mother, into the wholeness, which is the truth.
I have arrived.
Well, it's almost like, people go, oh, well, there's a pathway. Of course there is. Once I evoked my teacher 36 years ago and all these things happened, I was like, he goes, well, let's make sense of it. You've been a Taoist 1,000 times over. Go and become ordained in 2 lineages of Taoism. Great. Okay. But that's not the secret sauce. When I meet my maker as the now moment and you are experiencing that resonance, that has nothing to do with ritual or cultivation. Yet these are very important to pay homage and honor something that will solidify it, because you keep dancing back and forth until you own it. Until you own thyself, it will be a delusional state. So the method to the madness is, in my opinion, still, I say I did all the groundwork as a young boy. I was doing it, but not even consciously, as were you. And so when people go, oh, you need more time or clicks in the experience, that's nonsense. It's bullshit. You can be actualized right now. Yet with that comes a true surrender, a true sacrifice. And when you forget everything, you remember everything. And that's that part where, again, back to all things are nothing. And so non-centric states is the true self. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And so how do you access that? You're already doing it with the potency of the Fajun, the substance. You are playing with that tapestry. It's the here and now. And now it's like, okay, we need to sacrifice a little bit more of the incessant intellect that attempts to reframe it or give a level of ascension or a transformation. Yet it's important for most people. I refer to my teaching as Big Trouble in Little China meets The Last Airbender, and we had a baby. You find it's mystical, it's magical. It should be. That excites you. That creates that spark of divinity. Desire creates inquiry. Inquiry then fans the flames of contemplation. Contemplation turns into curiosity. Curiosity gives birth to hopium. Ain't nothing more power than hopium from a humanistic perspective. And that hopium then breeds and grows belief. And that's the crossroad for most people. Belief can be met with, a delusional state also, because if you repeat it over and over again and you believe the glass is half full, then the glass will be half full for the rest of eternity, leading you further and further away from your true self. But that experiential moment will return to the knowing when you get another taste and you're receiving more of the same, and you're able to hold that resonance longer and then longer and then longer and go, wow, I'm never robbed of it. If I go to sleep, I'm going to lose this superpower. If I wake up, is it still there tomorrow? This is what most people are contemplating, and they get stuck in that. It's like the true self is eternal, immortal, forever, forever, and it never leaves you. And always the substance gets stronger. As you know, the energy only gets stronger. The more you invest in maturing and cultivating the physicality, you will realize, holy shit, I can't make this stuff up. Every time I meet this experience, it becomes more and more profound, more and more robust, more and more grounding, expansive. And that's part of the journey that can be actualized right now. And that's where you go, okay, you are screwing my head. No, I'm not, because it happened to me. It's happened to many people that I've experienced and witnessed. And you get past the first person, third person, no person. So many people get in the observer of the observer, and that is a sticking point. To be all things and nothing, you're not observing anything, you're creating it. And that's what we get down with it. And that final transformative state that is never ending, because we are forever. The student is the teacher is the student. Or furthermore, when the student is ready, the master will appear, I guess, maybe. You will feel it. You will feel that resonance. And it happens over and over again. But, there's never a short or a long way to true self. And when you return, you will forget that there are any limitations. When you return, your animation is the breath, and you need nothing else. And so material things are part of the experience. So that material is part of you experiencing your children. You mentioned you had a child or several children. Your children, your wife, your experience, your body. This is heaven on earth, my friend. And that's the problem. Most people say, for Taoism and Buddhism, I don't know how familiar you are with Buddhism, but Buddhism is kind of met with this sort of a little bit of the ugly stepsister type of scenario, where Buddhism is like a pile of shit covered in diamonds, and you take another diamond off looking for more shit. And that's where all my monastic buddies are. It's like I'm sitting there looking for more dukkha, more distortion, and I just want to get this body out of the way and move on. It's like, no, I don't, you're right in it right now. Experience it for the now. And of course, Taoism is a completely different 180. Our life is a pile of diamonds covered in shit. You just take off some more shit and find another diamond. It's good to be you. And so, it's like people are like, oh my goodness, it can't be that simple. Oh, yes, it can. 100 over and over again.
I resonate with that path a lot more, and why, hence, most likely we are having this conversation, is that path of the Tao has always been very deeply resonant within my being. So I appreciate your wisdom in sharing that, and going deeper into this realization of course, all of it, but this specific path, it speaks to my soul.
And so let's just talk about the old workshop of, excuse me, using tools. And I mean, the ultimate for me, and I imagine for you, for a Taoist is the breath. For you, this is your life. And so the transformation, many people get stuck in the method, and the method, it just falls away like the dusk to dawn scenario. It just bleeds into the distance. And with these methods that really recognize your ancestral self, they're so ancient and ritualistic. How do you like to apply it to someone else's journey? Because honestly, all someone needs to do is just hang out with you and get high as AF, because the resonance is there. And so once they connect with this ancient wisdom, I mean, there's all bets are off.
The contemplation that I've been very much in the midst of is, yes, having the vehicles, the tools, the practices, the methodologies, all of the things that I believe for any individual interfacing with my work or anybody else's work, it's a way in and it's an invitation. But at some point, that doesn't matter anymore. It's dissolves. And this has been my internal contemplation for a while. Is like, yes, I share and I teach this infinite wisdom of the breath, and do it through the vehicle and the lens of sonic breath work and all of these things. But at the end of the day, what is the vehicle? Is it needed anymore? And as Richard Rudd of the Gene Key shares, which I'm a very big proponent of those teachings, is that the structure, which is the masculine essence, is needed in this material realm and a way in which we express ourselves, but ultimately all structures dissolve. And as you were saying and have shared much throughout this conversation, back into the mother. And so there is this finite, interesting dance that we all do. But for me personally, I feel as if I'm a bridge between the divine realm and the human realm, and be that bridge in the middle where I can relate to people on the deeply human level, from the feeling, from the emotional, even from the mental point, and then usher them on this journey into their divine self. And as I'm doing that myself through my own remembrance.
Right. Yeah, we refer to that as Wuzit. Wuzit is the portal between the realm of man and the heavens.
Wuzit.
Yeah.
So
between the realm of man and the heavens above resides the portal, and you. And
that's,
so,
as I feel, one of my sacred roles on this planet, on this earth, is to be that bridge or that portal, the introduction into that portal. And interestingly enough, since I've been a child, I've had these insights or moments of feeling into this earthly realm and knowing the familiarity of being here so many times, but knowing that this is an interesting lifetime that I've chosen to incarnate into, and that for whatever reason has always resonated and come back to this. And I say this from this very, this place of, it's a knowingness that this is my last play here in this planet. And I don't know why, but I know there's a completion cycle that's happening, and why I find myself at this inflection point at this very moment having this conversation is the remembrance of this, and knowing why the earthly mission and the legacy that I'm here to leave is something that is very sacred and dear to my own heart, and how I want to be of the greatest service to the whole.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, I'm just high. But I mean, it refers to what is the definition of stoic is the blossoming of a flower that returns to the power and earthing of the primordial bear that reveals itself through the shadows of the river that runs back to the ocean, that emotes the beauty of the sun and the collective as one, the nature of the softness of your loved one will reveal itself in this now moment.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. And there is that most ancient ritual, is that rhapsody that we constantly share from generation to generation. And it comes in that poetic justice that is given in the now moment. And with those words, harnesses the mother. And it is embodiment, dissolves back into truth, back into absolute. And that is you returning to whole. Where we're going, we don't need roads, Marty.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, because it really is, you know, when you get down with it, your relationship with this mastery alters people at a subatomic level just through the course of your day. You don't have to have attention or a focus. Your ability to share this with others is just moving throughout your day with the humble beginnings of a father to a man to a boy and back again through just being.
Mm. Yeah.
Amen to that, brother. Amen.
Amen.
It is. It doesn't. People just don't realize this. It's this beautiful.
Mm.
It should be. And I imagine we're probably pressing for time. I imagine you have a schedule, or
There's I got lost in the no time zone. Which is a beautiful place to be. Thank you. Coming back to my own responsibility and reality. Yes, there's a few things to do, but I'm grateful for the time and space that we shared. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm just grateful for you, my dear friend. We're going back, or more, furthermore, reunited, and it feels so good. It does, because there's no entry level of thought. There's no need for idea of protection. There's no evidence of anything other than wholeness that comes from this union. And most people will always come in with their facade, the persona they project to the outside, attempting to never reveal what is inside. And that's the very distortion that we need to soften. And that often will come that remembrance. And so, you know, most people find that action a little force never hurt anybody. And that's where you apply the body to the resistance of the material. And then you actualize that. And then you can enter into your path very, very clearly. And that's where most people bypass it. And, you know, that's where we have the complex. Because once you hit a higher state and you stay within the heart and the head, which we refer to the second and middle dantian, you're always opening and closing what we call the bai hui, which is the gateway to heaven. And because you're not grounded and rooted into the earth, you can't optimize your spirit in this material state.
Yeah.
And so it always becomes diminished, always. And people miss it. You're like, oh, I don't need that. Okay. You're a psychic, you're a medium, you're a channel. And this is the rinse, wash, and repeat. Yet they always find they're diminished. And the first question I ask someone is, how do you feel at the end of your day? I'm exhausted. Really? If you are truly eternal immortal, there's no such thing. I mean, the longest podcast I ever had, and that includes the physicality, where a lot of this, religious dogma and this bullshit where people say you must avoid anything that might reproduce another human being, and that as a man you must nurture the sacred ancient seed. That's all nonsense. If you truly embody your eternal immortal self, you're abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. But I will have a cautionary tale that you must be 100% actualized before attempting to, reconstruct Caligula's greatest hits. You need to realize that there is a process to actualize that. And so it's most of the time, most people in this space are like, De Niro, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Are you standing in the mirror reciting some bullshit that you don't believe? And that's the problem. And when the alchemical, this is where your stuff is so potent and so absolutely essential for anyone's path, is to actualize that and materialize it in the now moment. And it's a substance. And there's nothing subtle about that, my friend. Nothing. Humility doesn't look good on you. You need to let that go.
All right. Letting it go.
And it does. It just shows. Immediately, I was looking through Gary's greatest hits, and we're always sharing guests because we're brothers from another mother. And he's my homie. And, it's like I didn't say anything. Yes, I must have this incredible being in a conversation on my channel. It was like nothing more than, bam, I'm as high as a kite. And that's, really where people need to understand all of this makes sense. The feeling is all we have. It's like a cliche Hallmark throwaway special. Now is all we need. We must only just be in the now moment. And that's where people are conditioned into this nonsense. And it becomes a conflict between conscious and unconscious. And they are constantly afflicted with that. And you see it, if you don't understand something as fundamental as like hypnosis, you are going to have a problem in this current space that we're in, because most of the manipulators are using some type of form of distortion.
Exactly.
Understanding how to unionize and utilize and commune the two, so you're 100% conscious, is critical. And so people don't realize it's a superpower, yet it can be used for good or evil, but it's low level, basement level stuff. That is not the ascended state that we are talking of. That's still within the body. Conscious and unconscious is still within the body, because it would seem to be on the same level as that metaphysical Tao that I referred to, the body to the energy, to the spirit, to the consciousness, to mother. It's not conscious and unconscious of the mind of the body is not consciousness. It's a fundamental difference people need to realize. It's just we're playing with the spiritual baby shit. It's always exciting when you show people something that can be entry level. So to actualize someone instantly without using something that is a suggestion or a command, which most wannabe hypnotists will use, you are feeling into it. It is a resonance. It has nothing to do with using a tool to distract your attention to something else. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Total sense. Yeah. Beingness, resonance, vibration, frequency.
Yes, and yes. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, brother. And
thank you.
say it now that I want to have this conversation again in the future. So, and I want to speak more on the all the things that make you all warm and fuzzy inside.
Well, I would be honored to come back and share this space with you. I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate all your wisdom and very much exactly the way it needed to be today. So I will be back, and I would love to come back and jam on anything else.
Yeah. And with that, by loving thyself is to love nobody and everybody. And to warm that heart requires nothing but suffering, because that is the deconstruction of this very moment with no evidence of anything but perfection. And that's that poetic justice that keeps shining through and through. We love it. It's ours, it's yours, it's mine, it's everybody's. And with that, I'm going to put your social sphere and interweb under this podcast. I want everyone to go out and sample all the incredible wisdom teaching that you are sharing. I imagine you offer one-on-one sessions, group sessions. Why don't you share with the audience a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of redefining my offerings, but most of how I like to share and teach is through the realm of group. I do have very small openings for one-on-one, but generally in the realm of groups of people, whether that's in person or online. But everything's on my website, which is also being redone, christopheraugust.co, and through that can be reached all of the different events, experiences that I have, and if people would like to dive deeper into the power and the potential of their own breath, I do have an app called Beats and Breath. You can download that, and on there's many journeys and experiences to be had.
I love it. I love it. Again, in closing, last question: what is your definition of spiritual consciousness?
Ooh, spiritual consciousness. I think to sum it up and to sum up this conversation, it's everything and nothing.
Ooh, I can dig it. Thank you, brother. And over 400 podcasts, never got the same answers. I should not, because we're all a facet of the diamond of perfection. And you say tomato, I say tomato. It all returns. That same stream returns to the same ocean. And the rivers of discontent will reveal themselves in happiness. Yeah. I want to thank you, brother. It's been an absolute honor. I'm so grateful to reconnect with you. And I want to further explore this connection and brotherhood that has never left us. It's a union.
I'm in. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I am your humble servant and Sifu Taoist Master San Qing. I'll see you in the next one, guys.